I'm Steph Karate with the GTHL, and I'm super excited to have Anthony Stewart with us today. So, former GTHL alum, retired NHL player turned Sportsnet broadcaster, and most importantly, mentor with the growing hockey equality organization. Anthony, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks a lot for having me on. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Well, before we jump into everything you're working on today, which is all so great and needed, let's just jump back a little bit before we get into all of the big stories. Let's make a pit stop in Scarborough. So you're very proud of where you're from, rightfully so, and haven't been shy in emphasizing all the people who have helped you throughout your career and in your career today. So before junior hockey, before the NHL, before the Sportsnet cameras and all of that, how important was the community of Scarborough in getting you to where you are today?
Well, it was definitely probably the main reason why myself and my brother made it to the National Hockey League. It was a sense of community back then. And, I remember, I used to play for the West Hill Golden Hawks, but I used to live in Malvern. So I used to have to walk, probably about an hour and a half. And, after a couple of weeks of that, a family just pulled over and picked us up. And ever since then, I had a ride to the arena. So just that sense of community is sort of what I'm trying to get back to with my programming, but that's what helped. And these families weren't, high-class families. These are middle-class families doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. So, I had a lot of people go above and beyond to make sure I was clothed, to make sure I had equipment, to make sure I had registration paid for. And it wasn't just because I was a good hockey player. It's because I was a good family. I came from humble beginnings, and they realized that, I had an opportunity to go to the next level. So they went above and beyond. So with my programming here, I think it's just sort of me giving me a way of giving back to the next generation. But those days in Scarborough really taught me that sense of community, and that's what it's all about. It's a melting pot, very diverse backgrounds, hardworking, blue-collar type of people. So me coming from Scarborough definitely helped in my journey to making it to the National Hockey League.
Well, in your final season in the GTHL, all of that work and community, we'll give a shout out to your 100-point season. We'll toss that out there for you.
Yeah, no big deal.
With the Canadians. But with that, do you have a favorite minor hockey memory that sticks out to you now?
It probably would have to be the OHL Cup. And I was with the North York Canadians. Now it's JRC. And just that hard work of, 7 years. I was with the organization for 7 years. We started off as not being a great team. I think we didn't make the playoffs for the first 2 years, but every year we just got better and better. And I think by the time we went to Bantam, which was minor midget now, I think we had probably about 7 or 8 players that played together for 4 years or more. So just us now getting recognized and going to the OHL Cup, and, you're hanging out with your buddies at the hotel, and just that moment you really realize, like, hey, this is now coming to fruition. And I think we had 6 or 7 guys drafted that went on to the OHL. And, we had Brent Burns on the team, and Daniel Carcillo, who went to play on the National Hockey League, Lucha Quino that got drafted. So it's just great getting rewarded for our hard work going to the OHL Cup. We didn't win, but it was a great experience. And that's probably one of my greatest minor hockey experiences, for sure.
Well, and we hear so often from former players in the GTHL, they mention the group of players that they played with consecutively for so many seasons. How important do you think that is? And maybe do you think it's getting a little bit lost in today's game?
It's totally lost. And I've been coaching for 7 years now. And I have a minor midget team, and I think I have 1 player left from the Adam team. And that's something where it's a learning experience where it's tough. And again, everyone wants immediate results, and that's just the society that we're in. That's not just hockey. That's life. That's your job. There's people that haven't been in a job for more than 5 years before they're switching careers or career choices. So I think that's lost, but I think that's important for development, staying together and growing and learning. And just coming together to try to achieve a goal. So I understand it, but it's something that was dear to me. And, I go back to my minor hockey and junior career. I played for 2 teams in 11 years. And my final year, I was in Kingston with the Frontenacs, and they were trying to trade me my final year. I said, no, I got my brother on the team. I'm here for my brother. So if you trade me, I'm not going. And I was in the office saying that because staying together and accomplishing something was very, very important to me. And that helped develop me as not just a player, but a person.
You alluded to your career with Kingston. You spent the 4 seasons there, as you mentioned. In your final 2 seasons, you were the captain. So you were saying no to a trade. And how much of that was the captain of, I'm sticking with my team?
Yeah, and I knew I was going on to pro the next year and probably the NHL, but we were in the middle of a playoff race, and I was away for World Juniors for a bit, and the team was struggling. But I wanted to be the leader of this team to help get the team into the playoffs. And Kingston at the time was struggling for a number of years. And I wanted to be the reason why we went back to glory days, because it's a really, really nice town, really great hockey city. So I took that personal, saying, hey, don't trade me. I know you want to get assets down the line, but I really think that we can possibly make the OHL Cup. So that was my expectations. We didn't make the playoffs, but that was my expectations, and that was my true thinking. So I think that drive and that personal drive to be a leader and for success, I think that that helped build me as a player as well.
And you did touch on your career with Hockey Canada and Team Canada, but I want to put a spotlight on just how decorated that aspect of your career is. So, I mean, you have a bronze medal at the under-17 championship, you have a gold medal at the under-18s, and then a silver medal and a follow-up gold at the World Junior Championship. So wearing the maple leaf is obviously a huge honor, but how awesome was the experience of capping off that final World Junior Championship with a gold?
It was an amazing feeling. I think you missed a gold medal. I think I won one and two with under.
Oh, I missed.
There was a summer tournament. Yeah, but that's fine. No, but just what's great about the program is you start meeting players that are going to be at the next level at 16, 17 years old, and getting to meet guys from Alberta and BC and Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia, where these are players that you probably wouldn't even meet under any other circumstances. So meeting different people from different cultures, different areas of the country, that was great. And just the camaraderie of being in Europe. We had a tournament in Slovakia, we were in Finland, we were in Russia. So just being that close-knit family, because you're over in a destitute place of the world, and you're together, and that's all you have. That's definitely great. And the World Juniors was probably the highlight of my career to this day. The first year we lost to the U.S. when Fleury shot it off our own player. We won't talk about that, but just the next year going in with a mission, that was definitely one of the experiences of my life. And just being around greatness. You see now the players on that team, the Sidney Crosbys, the Bergerons, the Getzlaffs, the Carters, to be a part of that, part of the best World Junior team in history, and having a major role, that's definitely an accomplishment that I'll be telling my kids' kids down the line.
Well, we see how much it means with the jersey there in the background, so it's a nice emphasis there.
Yeah.
But you have many other accomplishments in your playing career. I mean, you were a first-round pick of the Florida Panthers. You've logged over 260 games at the NHL level. And for you, what was is your biggest takeaway from your National Hockey League career?
It's a lesson now that I teach the kids now that I coach. It's easier to get there than to stay there. And I think that was sort of my downfall. When I got there, I'm like, hey, I made it. If I make $1 million for the rest of my career, I'm good. So, I had a lot of pedigree. I had a lot of expectations in my career, but I think I got a little bit complacent. So I think that's sort of where it's lost in the coaching now. People are teaching. You're supposed to be teaching in your negatives and what you've learned the hard way, and teaching those lessons you had to learn the hard way. And I think now that's my biggest takeaway. Those lessons I learned the hard way, gave me that experience to teach my younger brother, who went on to play 700 games. And he in turn taught Wayne Simmons, who's going to play 1,000 games coming up, and Smith Pelly, and all these different players now. So I think that's going to be my legacy, the players that I helped get to the next level, but help be, stars in the league. So, the 268 games I played, I'm very, very proud of it. But I'm more proud of, helping others, helping my brother and helping Wayne, because those guys are legends in the game, legends of Scarborough. And to have a hand in a piece of that, that's definitely something that I'm very, very proud of.
Well, and that leads into obviously the full circle work that that you're doing. I mean, you are on Sportsnet, you're a broadcaster doing great work, and you're a head coach, as we mentioned, in our league for the Toronto Red Wings under-16 team. But many would say, and I think we've kind of highlighted it here, is your most important work is being done with hockey equality. And hockey equality, of course, for those who don't know, is working to add diversity and inclusion in hockey at all levels. So for those who might not know or be newly introduced to hockey equality, how did this first come about? And was it a project that you were always aiming to create?
It was. And I remember being 25 years old, and I'm sitting like, what am I going to do after hockey? And, whether, you're financially stable and you can retire and go live on a beach, this is something that I always wanted to do. I wanted to be a part of helping the next players get to the next level, especially the BIPOC players. And hockey quality was just sort of an extension of Stewart hockey, which I started when I started coaching 7 years ago. But I was coming out of pocket. And, I have a pretty successful hockey school. I'd have 20, 30 kids on the ice, and my wife who does the book, she's like, well, you're basically breaking even here. And she's like, where's the money? And I'm like, well, this person didn't pay, this person knows and half. So I wanted to just to find a way to be able to help without it hurting my bottom line, but more importantly, just help these kids. And there's some kids now that are in the GTHL that are playing at an elite level that are struggling for resources to pay registration, for sticks. And, I go to Pro Hockey Life probably every 2 weeks, and you're back again. Yep. And I'm buying sticks, spending $900 every time I step in there. So now I have the ability now with partnerships and collaborations, and the GTHL has been great. And I'm very excited down the line for the work that we'll be doing together to now really make that change. And I think that's sort of what the issue is with some of these big companies and organizations. They want to make change, but they don't understand how, or they don't know who to go to. So with Hockey Quality, we've been on the ground now for 7-8 years. We know the business of hockey. We know how the minor hockey works. We know grassroots. We know elite. So I think now we're sort of now wanting to send a message, hey, this is how we make change. We are going to start pushing kids up the ladder into roles on the ice, in the medical rooms, in the business world, and just create those next generation of BIPOC players. And whether you're BIPOC or you need financial assistance, we're here to help. And it's definitely exciting for the news that we're going to have coming out in the next couple months. And I'm excited just being on the ice. And that's my role, being on the ice and seeing these kids every week getting better and growing, and just the smiles on their faces. And, with the movement that's going on, I think that's what it has to be about. It's not about you and what happened. It should be about the kids and how to make it easier for them. And if you're not doing that, you're in the wrong business, because the art of pleasing others is definitely great and something that's near to me. And I'm very excited for the work that we're doing and the work that's going to be done down the line.
Well, amazingly said. It's like you're on TV for a living. But, I do want to bring it back. There was something really interesting that you said, that it's not about you and what happened. But I do want to ask, so through your playing days, were you ever treated differently? And was this something that you felt ever got in the way of your career?
Yeah, there's incidents. Yeah, there was. And there was some dressing room incidents. There was racism on the ice, off the ice. But, for me and my family, our number one hurdle was financial. We were poor. We were poor, and we were below poor, and we were in poverty. So I had the understanding that I was going to make the NHL at 11 years old and take care of my family. And my family reiterated that when they gave me an old pizza to myself, and they shared the other pizza, the biggest piece of chicken, the biggest bed in the house, because that was the expectation. So that was a lot of pressure for an 11-year-old, but the situation that we were in and my maturity, I think, helped me handle that. So I think those are situations now that I think is going to help. So, but that's not discounting anybody else's plight. There's racism surface, there's systemic. So I think it's great that we continue the conversation, but what are we going to do to make that change? And it's not just me as a Black player. There's Indigenous players that are going through residency issues. And, when they come off the reserves to play, they have to play in certain markets. There's players now that are stuck in certain centers. So there's all these issues that I'd love to help solve. And, the OHF and Hockey Canada and the GTHL are lending an open ear, which is great, and creating that conversation that's going to help spark that change in the future.
Well, and what would you say to young players who might be experiencing not just racism, but as you mentioned, those financial barriers, and how to maybe deal with it mentally and push through to continue playing the game?
I think you have to sort of set the goal. And, the game of hockey, everyone talks about the culture. The game of hockey has been amazing to me. It's been amazing to my family. It's changed my family's life. It's given us financial freedom. My brother now has his own business in Minnesota, running Minnesota hockey camps. My dad has been a full-time hockey fan for the last 20 years, where his only obligation is to make sure he's watching the Habs game on a Saturday night. So I want to focus on those aspects of the game. And I just got back from Calgary, where the city of Parkdale just outfitted the first fully accessible arena, and seeing people with mental disabilities, and playing sledge hockey, and them being on the ice, and just the freedom that they have on the ice, going around full speed. That's the hockey culture that I would love to sort of highlight, because people might think the game is not for them, but if I had an opportunity to play and thrive in the game and make a life for myself, and from where I've started to where I am now, hockey truly is for everyone.
Absolutely. And with that, there's a lot of emphasis on the players dealing with those obstacles and, racism and incidents themselves. But what would you say to the players around them or the people around them that, might encounter a situation or might see, a player who's facing barriers or hurdles? How do they handle it as people around it?
Yeah, it's definitely an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it's not enough to be, non-racist in 2022. You have to be anti-racist. And it's the same thing with the bully. If there's a bully, you stand up to bullies and you make sure you deal with them accordingly. You make sure that, you tell somebody, or you tell authorities or whatever you may have to do, but it's unacceptable. And I think right now in 2022, the way that society is going, if you are racist in 2022, you're hiding behind a Twitter handle with no picture, or you're going to be under a rock. So we're trending towards that. But I like to focus on sort of the, people are talking about what happened to them, but they don't understand what's happening to them. So those are the issues that I'm trying to fix. And the one thing that everyone can agree on, it's not going to happen overnight. You want to eradicate racism? Well, that's going to take time. So are you willing to put in the 10, 15, 20, 25 years for when your grandkids are going to play hockey? That's how long it may take. And I understand that. And that's why, I'm excited for the challenge. But I think that change starts with yourself. What are you doing personally? What are you doing personally on a day-to-day level? And, my wife hates when I say this. I don't vote. I make change in my community by being on the ice and putting in the hours. And that sort of should be a lesson. I'm on TV. I'm literally running from my skate, not even showering, putting on my suit, sitting next to Ron McLean. I have the time to make time for these kids. You can make the time. So I don't want to hear, I'm too busy. I'm doing this. I'm going above and beyond, and that's because this is my passion, and I love just seeing the kids, the smiles, and it comes back to the smiles and the development, and that's what hockey's all about, and that's why I think hockey's for everyone.
And the whole emphasis here is action, and hockey equality is obviously, as you said, you're on the ice, you're on the ground, you're doing the work. What has hockey equality done so far? Maybe some of the initiatives that they've hosted.
Well, we've had mentorship summits where we've got 3 groups of draft eligible players together of BIPOC backgrounds. Our first one was for the Black players. Then we had one for the Indigenous players and the South Asian one. So I'd really love to highlight the South Asian players where people said, there's 10 South Asian players. And I said, yeah, we had to grab a couple players from Alberta and Vancouver, but hockey is big in the South Asian community. So I think there's a lot of stereotypes. And I think that's what hockey quality is doing well. Where are you going to get the kids? Where are you going to find them? They're out there, but they just need their voices lifted and broadcasted. And that's why I'm sort of using the power of the media to highlight some of these kids, because I'm telling you, in 10, 15 years, you're going to see these kids be stars in the National Hockey League. I can see it. I'm on the ice, and these kids, some of them have dreadlocks down to the mids of their back. Some of them are wearing turbans. These kids are going to be stars, and they're going to be playing at the next level. They're going to be your lawyers. They're going to be your agents. And just to have a hand in that and helping them, learn the ins and outs of the business, I think that's something that hockey quality is all about. So it's we're trying to make change, but we're trying to prepare them for the way that the hockey world is now.
Well, I think you've kind of alluded to it already, but what is the big picture goal for hockey equality? Like, what is down the road? What is the main thing you wish to accomplish?
We want to help kids. We want to help as many kids as we can. And, it started with my journey in helping, with registration costs for one. And I think now we're at probably 20 kids that we are helping subsidize a lot of these costs. And that's hard costs. We're not talking about $50. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So now the ability now to stretch our outreach, and we've partnered and collaborated with some different groups out there. The Apna Hockey, who's doing it in Alberta, they're great. The 3 Nolans, who are going to the Indigenous communities. So we're looking now just to create this, wheel and spokes with different spokes throughout North America. I think that's how you change. So we're small right now, but again, we're going to have some big announcements in the coming weeks and months. And I think that's how you make your change. Where in 10 years, you have a group of 50 different organizations coming together, making that help, making that change. And I think that outreach can be definitely, almost worldwide, I would say. Well,
you have to start somewhere, right? It all
Absolutely.
Starts somewhere. So for someone who wants to find out more information on hockey equality, where would they go?
You would go to www.hockeyequality.org. That's our website. We got a lot of video and content on there as well. You can go to Instagram at hockey.equality. You can go to Twitter at Hockey Quality. So just type in Hockey Quality. I think we're not paying Google to sort of have them come up first in the search, but just type in Hockey Quality and you'll probably see my mug pop up somewhere.
It'll pop up somewhere. Well, I do want to shift a little bit to highlight your broadcasting career as well. So how did that chapter in your career come about? Was it something you ever thought or considered about doing when you were playing?
No, I didn't. And it's funny how I got started is because one of the producers in Sportsnet radio just saw my Twitter and was like, hey, you're pretty funny on Twitter. You're doing the GIFs and the memes. Like, did you ever think of doing radio? And I said, well, I've never done any broadcasting. I'm pretty funny in the dressing room, but I don't really know. I haven't thought about it. Like, well, would you like to try it? And I said, sure. And I think that's the lesson in that. I think from the 3 years that I started, I didn't say no to anything. And that's now gotten me on Hockey Night in Canada. I started off with radio. And then they asked me, hey, would you like to, be part of a co-host on a show? And I didn't say no. I said yes. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to make the best of it. And then I tried a couple TV spots, and that ended up working out pretty well. And I just worked on the craft and used the tools that I learned, in hockey to help me. I was on time. I was punctual. I was a good teammate. I didn't treat anybody. I treated everybody the same. And I think where I really got my opportunity was during the pandemic. So a lot of the broadcasters weren't allowed to travel, and I was sort of stationed in Toronto, and they gave me an opportunity. And I think I got probably about 2 years of experience in probably about 2 months, because I was working every single day during the playoffs and the bubble, doing probably 2-3 games a day. So I think that's what it's about, and just equality and making change. Sportsnet gave me an opportunity. They trained me, they developed me, and that's where I am today. So I really appreciate that, and I think that can be a lesson to sort of some big companies out there. You can develop the next BIPOC NHL GM. You can develop the next BIPOC head coach. You can develop. So that's what it's all about, giving them the opportunity, and I'm grateful for mine and making the most of it.
Well, and it's a great message, but I do want to go back to your time on Battle of the Blades, because that emphasizes the point that you really didn't say no to anything.
Yes, and I wanted to say no because I was like, well, they're like, well, you got to work on your shoulders. Because I'm like, no, I got to lose 30 pounds. And I was like, I don't know if I had the mental capacity at the time, being busy and having a baby on the way, that I could lose that 30 pounds. But I'm telling you, I went on the bike, I watched my diet, and I lost that 30 pounds probably in about 6 weeks to get ready. So that was tough, because I had to relearn how to skate. And figure skating, you think you're a good skater as a hockey player? No. These figure skaters, their edges is phenomenal, and immaculate is the best way to describe it. And, I almost quit a couple of days because, you're so good at being a hockey player and a skater, and you're falling. I fell probably about 10 times into the boards, where a couple of days I walked out and I didn't come back until the next day. So I stuck with it. And I think that sort of helped me now with business, where you don't quit, you stick with it. And I ended up getting voted off first, which whatever, it is what it is. But it was a great experience, and one I wouldn't change for sure.
Well, and in terms of creating a more diverse and inclusive space, how important is it for you that you also hold a position where young kids can turn on the TV and they can see someone that looks like them on TV talking about hockey?
Yeah, representation is very, very important. And that's a perfect point. And, I'm on TV, but I'm also checking my phone and Instagram, and all the hockey kids are sending me pictures, when I'm making a funny face on TV and all that. So they see me there. So there's some kids, well, I don't know if I can do broad. Well, you're seeing Anthony Stewart. He's at the rink every single day, but he's on TV trying to do his best to grow the game as well, too. So it's been great. And you look throughout the league, you got Kevin Weeks and Anson Carter and Bryce Salvador and JT Brown. There's a lot of representation in a lot of these hockey markets. So it's growing slowly, but like it goes back to my former point, it takes time. And I think we can make more progress, but we're making a lot of progress from where we were, 5 years ago. My brother right now, he's in a player development role with the Philadelphia Flyers. Joel Ward, another Scarborough boy, he's assistant coach in the American Hockey League. Trevor Daly's got a development job in Pittsburgh. So we're slowly now, climbing the ladder, and it's going to, change is going to come, and it's coming slowly but surely.
Well, with all of your experience and the work you're doing on the ground with hockey equality and the young players today that you're involved with, I want to ask, what is the most important message that you want any player, so boys, girls, any background, any race, to know if they want to start playing hockey?
If the Stewart family can make it and thrive in the sport, you can too. And I go back to the hockey is for everyone, and it is. And I'm here to tell you because I'm a success story. My brother is a success story. Joel Ward is a success story. Stevante Smith-Pelly is a success story. Same thing. So if there's a group of 7, 8, 9, 10 players that worked out together, trained together from Scarborough and make it to the NHL, hockey is for you. There's a group of 10 players that have done something that only 7,000 people in the world have done. The hockey is for you. So yes, there's going to be some obstacles. There's going to be some hurdles. There's going to be some negativity, but you have to find a way to channel it to positive because it goes back to the game of hockey has been so great to me. So stick with it. Try to outweigh the negatives with the positives, but just know now there's going to be help out there. There's going to be help. There's going to be people that look like you that you can call, that you can contact, if you have any issues, that will give you the time of day. Because part of that is part of the reason why we made it. We're great people. We're very humble and we have time and we're bringing back that sense of community.
Obviously, there's so many adults involved in the game, from coaches to volunteers to hockey parents and arenas. On that same note, what is the message that you want adults in the game to know?
It's pretty generic, but let your kids have fun, right? Let your kids have fun because the odds are very, very tough to make it to the National Hockey League. But the longer you play, hockey is a vehicle and your ticket to a better life, not just in hockey, but other areas. So, learning how to be on time, learning punctuality, learning teamwork, learning conflict resolution. Let your kids learn that part. My kids now, they're playing single A and house league hockey because I want them to go be a doctor, be a lawyer. But the longer that they play the game of hockey, they're friends, their best friends are from the game. So they're learning those lessons that's going to help them later on in life. So don't put that pressure on them. Don't have them be at the rink at 6:30 when they got school and they're on the ice at school at 9:30. And it's I know it gets crazy at times, but let them have fun because what you don't want that pressure. What can help you make you a hockey player at the pro level, it can also break you. And there's a lot of players retiring at 30 years old and they have another 50 years of life. What else are you going to do after that, right? So let them learn other tools, other trades, but let them have fun. It comes back down to having fun because the game is great.
Well, so many important messages and such an important perspective that you always bring to the table. We're grateful for you taking the time to join us today, Anthony. We're looking forward to still watching you on Sportsnet and everything else to come with Hockey Equality, so we really appreciate your time.
All right, thanks a lot. Go Leafs, go.
And thank you to our listeners. The GTHL Breakout Podcast will continue with all the off-ice stories just like Anthony's.